Hi from Mrs. Milliken's house. I'm putting together a video for you guys so that you can find out how to do force problems. And I want to show you my screen as I'm going along so that you can kind of see what I'm doing, have some examples, and then there'll be a set of problems that you're going to work on this week that you'll need to be able to use these strategies on, okay, these problem solving methods on. So if you look along with me on my screen here, when we're doing force problems, the basic equation that's used for force is mass times acceleration. And the unit that we use for force is actually newtons. So I'll put that on here. Okay, and a newton is equal to a kilogram times a meter per second squared. So kilogram goes with our measurement for mass, and meters per second squared is an acceleration measurement. So a kilogram times a meters per second squared would be equal to a newton. When we're doing force problems, we're going to be using a circle method like what we did with speed problems, but instead of using speed and distance and time, we're going to be using force and mass and acceleration in our circle. So let me show you a little bit about that. When you're using the circle method for force problems, remember force is measured in newtons. Mass would be measured in kilograms normally, if you're staying with SI units, and acceleration is measured in meters per second squared. Also, if you see anything that, like in a problem where it says something about acceleration, remember that meters per second, this kind of situation, when you write like this, is equal to a meters per second squared. They're the same thing. Okay, so if I'm showing you the circle here, remember when we used the speed circle for the problems that you did dealing with speed, you cover up the part of the circle that you need to figure out in the problem. So if you need to figure out force, you cover up the F, and the letters that are left, if they're side by side, that means you multiply those two things. So if you needed to find force, you would need to take mass times acceleration. If you needed to find something else in our circle, like if you needed to find the mass of the object, you would cover up the M for the mass. And if the letters are on top of each other, then you divide. You would take force divided by acceleration to find mass. If you needed to find acceleration, you'd cover that one up. And again, the letters are on top of each other, so you would take force divided by mass to find acceleration. All right, now we're going to try to go through a couple little example problems so that you can get the hang of using the circle method, and let me show some to you. Okay, so here's a little example problem about a runner. It says a 70 kilogram runner is accelerating at 2 meters per second squared. How much force does the runner generate? Okay, so anytime you're doing a problem, you want to like list out the things that you know in the problem. So it's good to like write things down, write it out on paper so you can get organized. So our mass in the problem was 70 kilograms. Our acceleration is 2 meters per second squared. We want to know the force. Now, if we go up to our circle and use the circle method, okay, if we need to find force, we cover that up in the circle, and that would have us be multiplying these two things together because the letters are side by side. So you would take mass times acceleration to figure out force. Okay, so down here in our problem, we're going to do that. We're going to take mass times acceleration. So we're going to take the 70 kilograms for the mass of the runner times the 2 meters per second squared, and we would get 140 kilograms times meters per second squared, which would be equal to 140 newtons they are the same thing. A kilogram times a meter per second squared is the same thing as a Newton. So our answer here is 140 newtons, or 140 kilograms times a meters per second squared. Okay, here is another problem. We'll do an example problem. It says a person has a mass of 100 kilograms and a force of 20 newtons. What is the person's acceleration? Okay, so again, listing out the things that are in your problem is a really good place to start when solving your problem. So the mass of the person is 100 kilograms. The force is 20 newtons. And we want to know the acceleration. So if I go up to my circle again, and we cover up acceleration, because that's what we need to find, these letters are on top of each other. So that means we have to divide to find the answer. So we're going to take the force divided by the mass. Okay, if we go down to that problem again, using the circle method, we're taking force divided by mass, and that would mean you're taking 20 newtons divided by 100 kilograms, and that would give you 0.2. And our measurement for acceleration is usually meters per second squared, so our answer is 2 meters per second, 0.2 meters per second squared. Okay, so those are a couple examples. Use the circle method each time you're doing a problem like this, and multiply if when you're covering up the circle the letters are side by side. You divide if the letters are one on top of each other when you cover up your circle. And make sure that you kind of keep with those same measurements that I had up at the top here. You'll have to pay attention to what's going on in your problem, but as a general rule, force is measured in newtons and mass is measured in kilograms. That's the SI unit. And acceleration is measured in meters per second. So if you're thinking about like, how do I label this? Those are some general things to keep in mind. Otherwise, you should have a pretty good start. Give some problems a try, and hopefully you can do well. And let us know if you have any questions. You can email us to get help. Thanks a lot.